Empire.
Hello and welcome to my podcast. Do me a favor, subscribe to the John Con Report. Wherever you get your podcast, you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. You can find us there as part of Empire Media. That's AMPIRE. Always much appreciated when you tune in. And of course, you can always read my work on ESPN.com. I'll have a story up Friday. A lot of you guys already know this pain, so bear with me. This is as much to a national audience explaining what this quarterback situation has been like the last 5 years, the resources they've invested into it, the number of players who played the position, and why and how they're hopeful that this year with Sam Howell, that streak or that quest finally ends, at least for a few years. Anyway, that'll be up. It should be up on ESPN.com on Friday. So, and also stay tuned at the end of this for a little short interview with rookie defensive end Andre Jones. Talked a little bit about just what he's been able to show in training camp. Also asked him about his Dream Chasers tattoo and why he has that, when he got it, what it means to him. And so I think it kind of explains his mindset. And there's also, I think it was a pretty cool, some moments there talking to him about what it means to him to be in this position and what it means to many other people for him to be in this position, which is why it goes back to that Dream Chasers tattoo. Anyway, stay tuned for that. Just give me about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll get to the audio interview with Andre Jones. Again, he's a guy that has certainly opened up some eyes this summer. And again, I just told you before, if I'm putting in the 53 together, he's on there. He's a guy who got some pass rush skills. You don't let those guys go free. And I told you before that the reason Shaka Toney made it a couple of years ago was because of, it was the separator was one move he made against Baltimore in the preseason finale. And it was a little bit of it was kind of a spin move, but it was a move that people here said other guys just can't make. So that's why they kept him. See if you develop, but it's a pass rush traits that you saw, and you see that with Jones, and you've seen it with him all along, and you see the length. And I told you about the length, talked a lot about this yesterday for my practice report. Anyway, let's get to some injury updates, because as we get closer to the season, these are a bigger deal. So let's start with Chase Young. He's going to go see a doctor on Friday to determine the next course of action. He's got that stinger. He has been out participating in full team work for the last 2 days. Now, no pads, a lot of just preparation for getting ready for the game, formations, and going over some team stuff. Again, he's not going to play in the game, and neither is a lot of the other defensive starters wouldn't, but they have to go over some stuff to get ready, not just obviously not for the game, but just stuff they're installing and seeing it against different looks, etc. There is some prep work for the game just to get guys together. But anyways, so with Chase, it's about the doctor's appointment tomorrow to see if he can be cleared for contact and get back so they can get him ready for the regular season. No update on Terry McLaurin. Dax Milne did not practice yesterday because of a groin injury that Rivera called a minor setback. He was out there running around today. Tress Way has the lower back soreness. He will punt on Saturday, so it'll be the first time this preseason that he would get some work in a game. We clearly know what the guy can do. You have to make sure with your Pro Bowl punter that you take care of him in that back, because he is an absolute weapon for them. Kendall Fuller has a sore knee. This is the first time we've really known what it is, but he has a sore knee. He had some swelling on it, so they pretty much shut him down. It's the reason why he didn't play against Cleveland. And part of that was, I think he was going to play, and then after the long delay, after warming up and you get a long delay, I think there was, I don't know if there was some soreness there, but they decided it'd be better just to shut him down for that game. So we haven't seen a lot of him over the last couple of weeks. The good thing is for them, he knows what he's doing in this defense. They know what he can do in this defense. And he has a good role here with this defense. So if anybody on that secondary is going to miss a few weeks, he's the guy, because he's very smart. He'll be prepared. And, you just, for their sake, you have to hope that this knee does not become an issue during the season, which is why you've got to take care of it now as much as you can. Charles Leno, Logan Thomas worked in the side field. So again, Thomas continues to progress from that. He's going to be such a huge part of this offense, and he has to be. I know there's excitement or some, positive feelings, obviously, toward Cole Turner. Logan Thomas is still the best pass catching tight end they have, especially in certain areas, red zone. He's just bigger. He's just a big, strong guy. And while Cole Turner has the height, Logan has the size. So I think he just adds something because of that. And he is a good athlete, having played quarterback. So you want him out there. Can they keep 4 tight ends with Curtis Hodges? I don't know. I don't know that Hodges has shown enough to warrant a roster spot, but we shall see. Anyway, a good progression there for Thomas. Curious to see how they handle Saturday night, who plays. Sam Howell is not going to play. Jacoby Brissett has been working with the members of the starting offensive line to get ready for this game. So I don't know we don't know yet who's going to play. Rivera will talk about that on Friday. But but again, Jacoby's gotten a lot of work behind that starting line. That starting line needs more time together. They need more reps. And that's one of the things that Nick Gates has talked about a couple of times. When you go back to the Ravens joint practices, the 3 things he said they needed were reps, reps, reps. So this is another chance to get it. And I don't care who they're working against. It's not about they're not facing the starters. It's about they just need time together facing live competition from another team. So they can get good work out of it if they indeed do play just because of that. Now, I don't think you're going to see certainly a lot of offensive starters, but I wouldn't be surprised if you have the line in there just to get them some time together. And, again, I told you yesterday, there's little things that when I was talking to Nick Gates the other day about this, like little things that you have to learn is how do you, if you're going to have a double team block with this guard, at what point can I let off and still get to the linebacker? At what point is this guy comfortable with me peeling off the double team to go do this? Just the communication aspect. But some of those are very, very subtle. So you definitely need work in those areas. So that'll be something to watch. And again, if they play, it's because they just need the reps. The Ricky Stromberg train is gathering some momentum. Stromberg continues to be a guy that has had a good camp, and to me, he progressively has gotten better. And it's funny because early in camp, there's some talk, you'd hear some maybe, not whispers, but you'd hear a little bit like, oh, does he have the strength? Well, a lot of it is, and I actually talked to him about this after practice today too, and you can see it on film. A lot of it is, it's really about lower body strength when you're trying to anchor. And that's what I think that was one of the little adjustments that he's had to make, is just getting used to anchoring against guys of this caliber and strength. And lately it seems to be what he's been doing. One of the things that Ron Rivera said today is that he's as good as advertised. And he's not at the point where he's challenging for a starting job, but he is at the point where he certainly warrants if you're going to put together an active game day roster, I think he should be on there because he's shown that ability where he can play a guard or a center in a pinch, or a guard in a pinch. But I mean, he's a 3rd round pick. And, it's funny because a couple weeks ago, we wondered on here about, they drafted a guy in the 3rd round, drafted a guy in the 4th round, that if all went well, and that they would not play. For Stromberg, you'd still say that because if everybody stays healthy, he's not going to play. However, that rarely happens on the offensive line. The ability to play guard is really paramount to what he can contribute this year, because again, it allows him to be active on Sunday. And then if something happens in the game, he can go in there and be a backup. Now, I don't know that they keep him at that position if, because you may have another guard who's inactive that day that you go in there following week. Maybe not. But at least he's shown that he can certainly be a contributor if something goes wrong on that offensive line. And that's what you want to see, because if he was just going to be a center, then you have to, excuse me while a bug just flew into my eye. But if he was just going to be a center, then you'd have to say, well, how is he going to help them unless Nick Gates gets hurt? And you don't want to see that. And I think Nick Gates is going to be good for them. But now you look and say, now he's starting to progress into being able to help them this year. And that is a good sign. I think he's a guy, again, I would not say he's threatening for a starting job at this point, but he's a guy that the coaches talk an awful lot about when they're in their meeting rooms. And so that's a good sign for him and for them. So here's what the other part of this, and I speculated on this yesterday, and I wondered after Rivera talked about, like, him being able to play both these spots, meaning Stromberg, kind of cleans up some other things. I don't know yet that means that they'd only go with 9 offensive linemen. They can still go with 10 because I do think they have a desire to have 3 centers, 3 guys who can play center on their roster, especially after what happened last season. So I think they'd be very afraid to expose, if they like Tyler Larsen, I don't think they're going to expose him to waivers on the chance that they might lose him. And then if something happens again, now you're at a difficult spot at a position where you've had all these problems. So I could see them still keeping 10 there, but maybe they do something else. It could help on game days, but I would kind of lean more toward 10 offensive linemen. But what I know is that Stromberg now has done a good job, and I don't think it means doom and gloom for Larsen, because again, that was something I wondered. What does it mean for him, since they play the same position? And if he's going to be active, okay, you could always keep a Nolan Laufenberg on the practice squad, for example, or if Larsen cleared, you could keep him on the practice squad. They can both, Laufenberg can be a center and a guard, and so you could keep your guy there. But I don't know that they're going to want to expose. I don't know if, like, the last couple of years have really haunted them so much that they don't want to go through all that again. And I mean, if they went through that a third year in a row, that would be unbelievable. We'll see. Unbelievable things have happened here before. So kind of after looking at, thinking about Stromberg, let's look at some other rookies. Obviously, Emmanuel Forbes is going to be a starter, and he's going to be a big contributor. He's going to be a good player for them. He's going to give up some scores because he likes to take some chances, but he plays aggressive enough. That's how he makes those plays, because he puts himself in position to make them. Other teams are going to test him, but regardless, he has shown that he can play. He has shown that he can help them and be a good starter for them. So, there you go. The other rookies, the other guy that to me has jumped out, I think, like I said, Stromberg is really kind of, because of what he showed at guard, just what he can do this year. But it's Chris Rodriguez, running back from the 6th round. Had the fumble the other night, when it's funny because he usually does a very good job going through the hole and making sure that ball is covered up when he's getting contact. One of the few times he didn't, and it cost him. But the thing that you have to really like about him is the power that he runs with. And I think in this running game, I think that suits them well. And, he's always getting a couple extra yards after contact. Antonio Gibson has done a better job of, he's gradually gotten better in that area over the last couple of years. And he has talked about having a bigger focus with lowering his shoulder this camp, but it's something that Rodriguez naturally does. And I think that makes a difference. And I think it's why he's certainly going to have a role this year. I don't know how much what he's all going to get, because they like Brian Robinson. Robinson through the hole has quick feet. He's shown good vision. Then you have Gibson as a 3rd down back. It's quite possible that you use Rodriguez as your backup to Robinson, and just have Gibson as your 3rd down back, but a guy who also can play in various packages when you want to throw the ball a little bit more, or when you want 2 guys on the field who are a little bit more run pass threats, like Gibson and Robinson, because I think they'll do that as well. But the other thing that's really, I think they've been very pleased about with Rodriguez is that he catches the ball well. So I think he's a guy, like I said, I think he looks like he's going to be a good pick. And it's, guys can always look good in camp, right? And then they don't do anything, especially at that position, because it's really hard to tell. But I also remember, I go back, you remember a guy like Keith Marshall, who several years ago was a lower round pick, and he had a lot of speed, but he really didn't look like a running back. Now, he had a decent first preseason game because of that speed, but you don't know what kind of role he would have had. He didn't. I think Rodriguez my point is, like, he was a low round pick. Rodriguez looks better and further ahead than where Marshall was. Marshall was a speed guy. And again, if he hadn't torn his ACL, maybe would have seen something more from him. But the point is, I think to this point in camp, Rodriguez looks like, he's not just a guy who looks good because they're in camp and you're not hitting. He's a guy who looks good because the way he runs, the way he lowers his shoulder, the way he gets extra yards, and the way he can catch the ball. To play more in that role, you also have to learn the protections, but he's a very physical guy, and I think that helps him. Yeah. All right. So some other, it's funny because looking at him, they've had some success with the low round picks. So let's go over some of them. 2020, Cam Curl, 7th round. They also drafted Khalid Hudson and James Smith-Williams in the 7th round. If nothing else, they're key backups. special teams guys. They also in 2020, you also had obviously that was Chase Young and Antonio Gibson were at the top end of the draft, and Sadiq Charles, but those are the low round picks. 21, Derek Forrest, 5th round, projected as a starter right now, and he's really progressed. He's a guy going into camp that I think they wondered where was he at exactly. I think the feeling in the offseason was that maybe Percy Butler was going to ascend to that, like the role, like as the number 2 safety, with Cam Curl. But Forrest is in there all the time for a reason. And I think he's continued to progress. So another good pick in the lower rounds. 2022, Sam Howell in the 5th round. I mean, whether or not you think he's going to be a great starter or not, the guy will show that he can play in this league. And it's a 5th round pick that's really good. So if he's just a quality starter or, something else, that's a really good pick in the 5th round. To get a quarterback who can play in this league, it's a really good pick. You also got John Bates in the 4th round that year. Another solid pick, good run blocker, pass catcher, okay, but a good run blocker. And it's fun to watch him. Fun if you like watching tight ends block, but at the line of scrimmage, because like Cole Turner does a nice job blocking on the move. At the line of scrimmage, I think he still needs some work there, but that's where Bates can really help them. And you saw a difference with him in the run game last year. You get guys like Bates and Alex Arma as a fullback in the run game. Now you have 2 extra blockers to help that line, and it can allows Bieniemy to do a few more things. So in 2021, I think I already went over 21. You got Derek Forrest. So, and then this year, of course, you got Rodriguez, and then you have Andre Jones and KJ Henry. Of those two, they're different players. So it's hard to say, like Jones is flash more, but Henry plays with some power. I think that's going to help him. But those are intriguing picks. And listen, you don't have to become if you get a guy who's a key contributor in the low rounds, you've done really well. Because like every draft you go into it, like what NFL folks will say is like, you want to get guys who can maybe be future starters, or you want 2 or 3 starters. You want 2 or 3 guys who contribute to winning. And I think guys like that can. Rodriguez, I think, can do that. And I think 1 or 2 of the Jones or Henry will be able to do that. Now, right now, you'd say Jones because he's flashed more. But I think as they progress, we'll be curious to see where it goes. Will either one ever be starters? Well, they don't necessarily have to be. But here's another key. Like they have 4 defensive end free agents next year, including the backup, Smith Williams and Casey Toohill. Let's say both make it. Well, you're not going to be able to re-sign all those guys because it's just going to be, going to have to re-sign Montez Sweat, maybe franchise tag Chase Young, or maybe re-sign him. So that's a lot of money there. You want some younger, inexperienced backups who can develop into good backups. I think that's what they potentially have there, where you may have one like Jones might be more of the Casey Toohill role, and KJ Henry might be more of the Smith Williams role. But one of the things they like, and Jack Del Rio talked about this, that in college, Jones played a lot of 2-point from the 2-point stance, and whereas now he's obviously got to play a 3-point stance. But I think that length and his athleticism has really helped him in that regard. As far as the other rookies this year, Quan Martin, and I think his future, he's going to clearly, he's going to help them. Just a matter of what role is he going to help him, and then at what point does he become a more of a player than what he is projected to be right now? Because right now it's hard to see like how much time is he really going to get, given what they have in the secondary. You have 3 corners. Well, they can always put him in the slot, but I think that may, you have Benjamin St. Juste you put in the slot with Forbes and Fuller on the outside. But if something happens to Fuller and you need a guy in there, you have Quan Martin who can go in there, or you have Danny Johnson. But Quan Martin too, I'll be curious to see how does he do at safety? And they are putting a lot on his plate. So sometimes when you see him in a game, there's a lot that he's had to digest and process more than a lot of other players. And you see some of those mistakes get made in games like we saw the other night. And they, as they talked about, and I told you yesterday, it was really some of those are just simple communication mistakes. But the one thing Del Rio said that he likes about Quan Martin is that he doesn't make the same mistake twice. And I told you before, I think he's a smart player, but it still remains to be seen how big a role will he have from scrimmage. I think he'll be a key part of special teams, but from scrimmage, and that'll just depend on the package, it'll depend on the team they're playing, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, that's all from me. I told you I'd have an interview with Andre Jones. So here you go. Here's my conversation with Washington defensive end, Andre Jones.
There is still time for one more family adventure this summer. The country's largest climbing and zipline park is open 7 days a week until Labor Day. With 8 different levels, 16 courses, 250 climbing obstacles, and over 4,000 feet of zip lines, the Adventure Park at Sandy Spring, located in Montgomery County, Maryland, is the perfect place to spend the last few days of summer. Once you're back on the ground, head over to axe throwing and try one of their brand new games. You can play Battleship, Blackjack, throw at traditional targets, or even upload your own images. They are now accepting group and family reservations for this fall. Can't make it out before school is back in session? Not to worry. The Adventure Park is open Friday through Sunday every weekend this fall. To end the summer right, listeners of this show can now get $10 off any ticket by entering the promo code KEIM23DC at checkout. That's KEIM, K-E-I-M, 23DC at checkout. There is still time to get outside and join the adventure at theadventurepark.com.
Curious how you feel things have been going for you so far.
I would say they've been going well. Like, you always be better. Like, 'cause I always been hard on myself. I'm always hard on myself. I want to be better. So, like, I do something good, it's just like the next thing. But I need to work on that too. Just enjoy what I do good too sometimes,
What is it like the other night? What did you feel like you were able to show the other night? What is it that you say, I need to get better here?
I know the main thing right now is just playing fast and being consistent. Like, I feel as a rookie, you do a whole lot of thinking right now. And, the more and I think that's normal. And the more you just keep working and getting better, everything's going to be all right.
And what is there something that you took away from that game? It was I like this, but this is something that let's just tweak this.
For me, for my height, hand placement and pad level.
Okay.
The motor's there, everything else is there. For my height, just keep working on that pad level and hand placement, and then being consistent on that too.
And there were how much you pay attention? They're giving me reps against this group. They're giving me reps against this group. You keep kind of climbing up.
I really, when it first happened, I was excited. It makes me excited, but as of right now, I don't want to get carried away with that. I want to just be I'm getting reps. I'm getting an opportunity. That's how I look at it. I'm getting the practice. I'm getting to get better. So I don't really kind of feed into that.
I like the Dream Chaser tattoo. What's the story behind that?
I got that when I was in 19th grade. One of my favorite artists like Meek Mill, and his label is called Dream Chasers, and coming from a lot of people don't chase their dreams, but they ain't never get to achieve it. So I'm one of the only ones that got to achieve my dream, So it's really deep. I can write a book on it.
Really?
Yes.
What else behind that? Is it
It's a lot of people that they get to live their dreams through me. A lot of people that's in my corner, they get to live their dreams through me. They happy to see I'm doing it, so they get to they happy for me. Just be like that.
And when you what do you feel, pressure, a burden, or what is that like to when you know that? A lot of people are kind of living like that. Or is it just a blessed feeling?
It's a blessed feeling. I feel like pressure is a privilege. That's why I feel like that. Be able to do something, everybody look up to you. I feel like that's a privilege. And I don't take that lightly.
As a pass rusher, where do you think your main strengths are?
Just getting out the ball fast and using my length. I think that's my two best things right there, and playing with power. Just having that motor,
With the length, because I notice that sometimes you're able to get into them and kind of keep is it more keeping their hands off you? Where does the length really help you most?
I feel like at pass rush, you got to use your hands.
Right.
I'm learning a whole lot more than what I knew in college. So it's a process right now. Like I said, doing a lot of thinking, a lot of learning, and I'm learning more about myself right now. So I would say using my length to don't let them get at me.
So is it more just keeping their hands off you, in other words?
Yeah, trying to win. I'm trying to win.
Right, yeah, trying to win, but that helps you win.
Yeah, win. It helps in the run too. We don't get too carried away with with passing.
Right.
Like, you know, we gotta stop the runs. You know.
Well, how much of that for you coming here? Like, how much? You guys have played this for a while, so you know that it's important. But is it even a bigger deal than you realize when you get here, or is it like as far as like, hey, you got to be able to do everything?
I would say it's a bigger deal because I know in college I came from a good school and I had good coaching, and don't get even better coaching in the league is like it's 10 times different, 100 times different. Like, you know, I still make it a big deal, like just trying to be the whole package, be everything I could be.
And going back to the dream test, because I just think that's fantastic. Like, how much do you hear from people about, you know, where you're at and how much it means to them? Like, you know, do you hear a lot from people like that when you go back? Is it, you know, what's it like?
Tomorrow going back home.
Whenever whether you're back home or whether they text you or whatever, what's it like?
It feels good. Like a lot of people like happy for me. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's real or fake is, like, you know, like I'm doing something like a lot of people can't do. Like, they don't get to do. Like, you know, a lot of people wish to get to do. Like I said, I can't take it for granted. Can't take it lightly. So I know, like, seeing all that. Sometimes I don't try to tune in because, like, I got, you know, you spend a lot of time looking at that, then you get lost where your feet are. So, like, you know, every once in a while I get to look, like, okay, you know, feel good.
Cool. Mm-hmm. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Good luck. That's it for this episode. Thanks to Andre for spending a few minutes with me, and thanks to you, as always, for listening. I'll be back on Friday afternoon, getting you ready for the final preseason game Saturday night. So I'll talk to you next time.